Among the vast landscapes and untamed frontiers, black outlaws, lawmen, and cowboys left an indelible mark on history, defying conventional norms and carving their own paths. In the real Old West, it's estimated that a quarter of all cowboys were black. In this video, we dive into the captivating stories of these remarkable figures, shedding light on their triumphs, struggles, and enduring legacy in the history of the Old West. Remember to hit the like button because it helps us a lot. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell to not miss the upcoming interesting videos. Basse Reeves, 1838 to 1910. Born to slave parents in 1838 in Crawford County, Arkansas, Basse Reeves would become the first black U.S. deputy marshal west of the Mississippi River and one of the greatest frontier heroes in our nation's history. Owned by a man named William Reeves, a farmer and politician, Basse took the surname of his owner, like other slaves of the time. His first name came from his grandfather, Basse Washington. He worked mostly in Arkansas and the Oklahoma Territory. Over the 35 years that Basse Reeves served as a deputy United States Marshal, he earned his place in history by being one of the most effective lawmen in Indian Territory, bringing in more than 3,000 outlaws and helping to tame the lawless territory. Killing some 14 men during his service, Reeves always said that he never shot a man when it was not necessary for him to do so, in the discharge of his duty to save his own life. Reeves's health began to fail further after retiring. He died of Bright's disease on January 12, 1910, and was buried in the Agency Cemetery at Muskogee, Oklahoma. Cherokee Bill, 1876 to 1896. Crawford Goldsby, also known by the alias Cherokee Bill, was an American outlaw. Cherokee Bill was said to have killed 8 men, including his brother-in-law, and he and the Cook gang ran havoc over the Indian Territory for over 2 years. Crawford Goldsby was born in Fort Concho, Texas on February 8, 1876, to St. George and Ellen Beck Goldsby. Bill's father was a mulatto from Alabama, a sergeant of the 10th United States Cavalry, and a Buffalo soldier. His mother was a Cherokee freedman with African, Indian, and white ancestry. In July 1894, Cherokee Bill was involved in a host of robberies and murders as part of the notorious Cook gang headed up by brothers Bill and Jim Cook. In September 1894, Goldsby shot and killed his brother-in-law, Joseph Mose Brown, either over an argument about some hogs or because he thought that Brown got more of the parental estate than was due him. On November 8, 1894, Cherokee Bill and the Cook gang robbed the Shufelt and Son General Store. During the robbery, Cherokee shot and killed Ernest Melton, an innocent bystander who had the misfortune of entering the store as it was being robbed. During this time, Goldsby's hair started to fall out due to a disease inherited from his grandfather. The disease left him with so little hair on his head, he decided to shave the remainder off. Cherokee Bill's career as an outlaw came to an end in 1896, when he was captured, tried, and sentenced to hang for the murders he committed by the so-called hanging judge, Isaac Parker. On March 17, 1896, federal officials hanged him before hundreds of spectators. Reportedly, when he asked if he had any last words, he said, "I came here to die, not to make a speech." At the tender age of 20, Crawford Cherokee Bill Goldsby, the most notorious outlaw in the territory, was dead. His mother then took his remains back to the Fort Gibson area, where he is buried at the Cherokee National Cemetery. Nat Love, 1854 to 1921. Nat Love was an American cowboy and writer active in the period following the Civil War. His reported exploits have made him one of the more famous heroes of the Old West. Nat Love was born into slavery on the plantation of Robert Love in Davidson County, Tennessee, on June 14, 1854. His father was a slave foreman who worked in the plantation's fields, and his mother the manager of its kitchen. Love had 2 siblings, an older sister, Sally, and an older brother, Jordan. Love traveled to Dodge City, Kansas, where he found work as a cowboy with cattle drivers from the Duval Ranch. According to his autobiography, Love fought cattle rustlers and endured inclement weather. He trained himself to become an expert marksman and cowboy, for which he earned from his co-workers the moniker Red River Dick. In 1872, Love moved to Arizona, where he found work at the Gallagher Ranch, located along the Gila River. He wrote in his autobiography that he met Pat Garrett, Bat Masterson, Billy the Kid, and others while working the cattle drives in Arizona. In the spring of 1876, the Gallagher Cowboys were sent to deliver a herd of 3,000 steers to Deadwood, South Dakota. When the crew arrived on July 3rd, the locals were busy preparing for a 4th of July celebration. One of the many organized events included a cowboy contest with a $200 cash prize to the winner. The contestants competed in roping, bridling, saddling, and shooting. Winning every competition, Nat walked away with the $200 prize and the nickname of Deadwood Dick. In 1907, Love published his autobiography titled Life and Adventures of Nat Love, better known in the cattle country as Deadwood Dick, by himself, which greatly enhanced his legacy. Love spent the latter part of his life as a courier and guard for a securities company in Los Angeles. He died there in 1921, at the age of 67. Bill Pickett, 1870 to 1932. William Pickett, also known as Bill, Will, and Willie, was one of the first great rodeo cowboys and is credited with inventing the sport of bulldogging. Of African American and Cherokee Indian descent, Pickett was born on December 5, 1870, in the Jenks Branch community of Travis County, Texas. He was the second of 13 children born to Thomas Jefferson Pickett, a former slave, and Mary Janie Gilbert. As a child, Pickett attended school through the 5th grade and began working at ranching. He invented the technique of bulldogging, the skill of grabbing a cattle by the horns and wrestling them to the ground. Pickett began to supplement his income by demonstrating his bulldogging skills and other stunts at county fairs. In 1905, Pickett joined the 101 Ranch Wild West show that featured the likes of Buffalo Bill, Will Rogers, Tom Mix, B-Ho Gray, and Zach and Lucille Mulhall. He performed under the name The Dusky Demon. Pickett was soon a popular performer who toured around the world and appeared in early motion pictures, such as a movie created by Richard E. Norman. Pickett's ethnicity resulted in his not being able to appear at many rodeos, so he was often forced to claim that he was of Comanche heritage in order to perform. In 1921, he appeared in the films The Bulldogger and The Crimson Skull. Pickett continued to work until he was kicked in the head by a horse at the 101 Ranch. A few days later, he died of his injuries on April 2, 1932, and was buried north of Marland, Oklahoma. In 1971, he became the first African-American honoree to be named to the National Cowboy Hall of Fame, and in 1989 was also honored in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. On August 6, 2018, Bill Pickett was inducted into the Jim Thorpe Association's Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame. A hill in Burnett County, Texas was named for Pickett in 2021. A trail with an interpretive sign in Georgetown, Texas, honors Pickett. Isam Dart, 1858 to 1900. Isam Dart, also known as Isam, was a cattle driver, rancher, and horse and cattle rustler during the late 19th century in the Wild West. He settled in Browns Park in northwestern Colorado, where he was considered by his neighbors to be a superlative rider and roper, a good neighbor, and an expert and industrious cattle thief. Isam Dart was also a notorious Wyoming Territory outlaw. According to the Museum of Northwest Colorado, Dart was born in Texas about 1858. His father was Cyrus Dart, a farmer in Seguin, Texas. He had a sister and 2 brothers. The family lived amongst a diverse community of Hispanics, Native Americans, blacks, and whites. He began earning money wrangling cattle in his teens when he rounded up wild cattle. He worked at the Goodnight Ranch. He stole horses with a man named Teresa. Isam Dart joined a notorious band of the rustlers called the Tip Galt Gang, and he changed his name to Isam Dart. He trained horses for the Wild Bunch, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids Gang, and was a successful rustler. Dart was accomplished and considered a skilled bronco buster and a top hand among cowboys. Joe Davenport, his friend, stated in 1929 that, "I have seen all the great riders, but for his all-around skill as a cowman, Isam Dart was unexcelled and I've never seen his peer." Although it was common for African Americans to be subjected to hostility at the time, he was well respected. On August 3, 1900, as he came out the front door of his ranch, the notorious range detective Tom Horn, who had been hired by local ranchers to rid the area of rustlers, shot him dead. Dart was buried near his cabin. John Ware, 1845 to 1905. John Ware was a Canadian cowboy who was influential in the early years of the burgeoning ranching industry in southern Alberta. Remembered for his excellent horsemanship, he was among the first ranchers in Alberta, arriving in 1882 on a cattle drive from the United States and settling to ranch until his death in 1905. John Ware was born into slavery, and there is no record of his birth. The historian J.W. Grant McEwen claimed he was born on a plantation near Georgetown, South Carolina. However, on his marriage certificate, Ware himself stated he was born in Tennessee. After the American Civil War, he left for Texas, where he learned the skills of a rancher and became a cowboy. Ware then worked his way north to Canada, driving cattle from Texas to Montana. Like any other folk hero, there is a wide range of tales about his ability to eat, ride, and shoot, all of which contribute to the cowboy lore of his time. It is said that he never was tossed from a wild horse, and that he had popularized steer wrestling, which would then become a highlight of the Calgary Stampede. His story is that of a remarkable figure in history who helped to lay the foundations of the ranching industry in Western Canada, and at the same time defied stereotypes. Ware became one of the most well-respected figures on the Albertan frontier and is still an important part of Alberta history. Bose Icard, 1843 to 1929. Bose Icard was an African-American cowboy who participated in the pioneering cattle drives on what would become known as the Goodnight Loving Trail after the American Civil War and through 1869. Aspects of his life inspired by the fictional character Joshua Dietz, the African-American cowboy in Larry McMurtry's novel Lonesome Dove. Bose Icard was born into slavery in July 1843 in Noxubee County, Mississippi. Later, he arrived in Union Parish, Louisiana, before his master, Dr. Milton Icard, his wife, and 5 children moved to Lamar County, Texas in 1852. In 1866, he went to work for Oliver Loving as a trail driver, participating in pioneering cattle drives on what became known as the Goodnight Loving Trail. Bose Icard continued to work with Loving's partner, Charles Goodnight, for 4 years on the Goodnight Loving Trail. Goodnight visited him in Weatherford whenever the opportunity arose and gave him gifts of money. The two men became lifelong friends. Goodnight later commented that he trusted Bose Icard farther than any living man. He was my detective, banker, and everything else in Colorado, New Mexico, and the other wild country I was in. In his later years, Bose attended several cowboy reunions. While with his sister in Austin, Texas, Icard died on January 4, 1929. He was 85 years old. Charles Goodnight paid for and erected a marker at Icard's grave in Weatherford's Greenwood Cemetery with this epitaph: Bose Icard, 1859 to 1928. Served with me for 4 years on the Goodnight Loving Trail, never shirked duty or disobeyed an order, rode with me in many stampedes, participated in 3 engagements with Comanches. Splendid behavior. See Goodnight. Please like and share if you find the video content interesting and useful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below so as not to miss the upcoming interesting videos. Thanks for watching.